Release the Kraken!
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Powered by Phelps Game Calls.
Oh, hey there. Back again with another episode of the Bugler Broadcast podcast. Hey, guys. So, back again to listener-submitted questions. A bunch of folks have been calling in to the super secret hotline and asking their elk hunting questions. If you want to ask a crazy elk hunting question, maybe you just don't know about something or like to hear my take on it. Maybe you're an old seasoned vet and been doing it a certain way a long time, and you want to hear my take on it. Give me a call. We'll talk about it here on the air. I'll play your message, and I'll see if I can answer it to the best of my ability. Or maybe you have a crazy story. So anyhow, let's dive right in here and go to the first listener question of this episode and see what it sounds like.
Dirk, I have two questions for you, brother. The first one is, who's your favorite professional wrestler? Maybe it's one you've dressed up as when you've been elk hunting before. I don't know. I would like to know, what's the bugler's favorite professional wrestler? My second question is, last November, I was on an elk hunt in Colorado, and there was no snow, and the elk were really high up in the mountains. So I want to know, what does the bugler do when the elk are too high up to reach? What's a good strategy for hunting elk that are way high up in the mountains? Thanks a lot, brother.
Thanks a lot, brother. Well, Hulk Hogan likes to use the term brother a lot, and I'm here to tell you, he's not my favorite. I'm just going to break it to you. Macho Man Randy Savage. You've probably seen the picture of Macho Man and I posing back at an elk season a few years ago when we were hunting a beautiful mountain range in Wyoming, and we were both kind of flexing up and, kind of strutting our stuff around, but no, just kidding. You'll probably see the silly picture while I'm talking about that. Anyhow, never really watched wrestling at all. I'm going to come clean about the whole wrestling thing. I didn't grow up really watching it, but on social media and YouTube over the years, I've seen all these crazy montages of Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, all these guys. You know how they talk all their smack to good old Mean Gene and talk about all the other wrestlers and what they're going to do. And anyway, I thought those were always so over the top, but so hilarious so I just Macho Man was always my favorite because he was just get so intense. Oh man, it was awesome. So anyway, that's where the whole Macho Man, being a Macho Man aficionado or follower or fan, that's where that came from. So anyway, as far as hunting elk high in November in Colorado, I've never elk hunted high in November in Colorado. I've only been there elk hunting once. It was in September, so they were high. They were all over the place, kind of where we found them. But last November, I was in Colorado deer hunting, and we ran into elk high and low. During the hunt, I probably saw more nice bulls than I ever did mule deer bucks. I don't know, people that say mule deer are the superior species, I don't know if I trust that. I don't know if I trust them as a person. Mule deer don't even bugle. Come on, people. But I do know my good buddy Cody Kellum and Trevor Fisher from Born and Raised Outdoors. They did some elk hunting in November in Colorado last year, and it was cold and it was tough. And down in the normal places you might find them, they kind of struggled. So they went high. They They loaded up their packs. I don't think it was comfortable in the least bit. They went super, super high. You can follow this hunt on YouTube. I'm not sure what episode it is, but it's from the 2019 season. And they went super high, and they found success. So I think it kind of goes back to the old saying, Pappy Durham used to always say, my dad, he would say, elk are where you find them. And which always frustrated the hell out of me as a kid. I'm like, of course, that's duh. Of course, elk are where you find them. But what he really meant is they're not necessarily where you want them to be or think they might be. Sometimes you just have to dig in and go find them. So with that being said, sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you just have to put those extra efforts to go high. Sometimes it may be almost impossible, but formulate a plan, take the long shot. As my buddy Trent Fisher's brother, Austin, always says, it's the long shots that pay off the biggest. Anyway, just dig in and try to go after them if they're up high. You can wait for them to migrate down. We kind of did that with mule deer last year in Colorado, thinking, any day that we'll start seeing some big bucks migrate in. And we hunted high, we hunted low, we hunted everywhere in between, and we never got the kind of weather that ever pushed them down. So I think you could say the same thing about elk. If you're waiting on weather to push them down, you may run out of time in your season or the time you've scheduled for a vacation. So I would definitely just go ahead and if you know they're high, go after them, buddy. All right, let's see what the next caller has to ask.
Hello, Dirk. Hey, my name is Charlie Reitmark. My wife says you suck because she's going through some shoulder issues too, had surgery and fighting through it, but you're doing way better. Anyways, my question for you is, how do you pick an area to, that you want to key in on for elk hunting? So how do you narrow it down to a specific area? Thanks, and we'll look forward to your podcast.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Charlie. Tell your wife, man, shoulder surgeries suck, and the doctor did say I recuperated on mine pretty fast and was very happy with the progress I made. But don't tell her, or tell her not to lose hope. Whether it's the stretches, whether it's just those little weird menial exercises they give you with the little stretchy rubber bands that look like a slingshot deal. Just do everything the physical therapist tells you, stick to it, be dedicated to it, and eventually it will come around. So good luck to her. I know shoulder surgeries are quite disheartening. I'm just thankful mine wasn't something worse, and I'm able to get out in the field this fall. So and pull my bow back like everybody else. So anyway, good luck to your wife. I hope she has a speedy recovery. As far as how do I pick the places I want to go elk hunting? So there's a few things I'd like to look for. I've hunted several different places before, different states, different parts of Idaho, in fact, and there's a few things that kind of stand out in what I'm looking for and kind of seem to be a constant. So some of the areas I hunt, and especially in Idaho, we got a road system in Idaho like not a lot of other states have, and there's a lot of access. Some states have lots of logging roads and cat roads, but they restrict motor vehicle use to some certain degree, or they don't allow it at all. And a lot of Idaho, North Idaho especially, has a lot of ATV trails. They have a lot of gated roads that you can take a side-by-side on, or dirt bikes or whatever, but you just can't drive a pickup. And what happens then is you get tons of people like on their ATVs and UTVs out there just beating the ground. Some guys will drive around. They'll sit on their four-wheeler. They'll turn off the key. They'll blast out a big old Doug Fluty bugle. You know the one. And they'll wait for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and then they'll start their four-wheeler back up and drive over to the next corner about a quarter mile away. And they just do this all day long. These guys have have CBs and whip antennas and these big cargo things on their ATVs and coolers. They don't get off their ATV much. So anyway, I start looking for places where I can kind of get away from those ATVs, whether it's some gated roads that don't allow motorized vehicles, or maybe there's some stuff adjacent to that motorized country that has some really steep, rugged canyons, or that might be roadless. So think of this. So you have a lot of these elk love that kind of terrain because there's a lot of feed where they've logged in the past. So summertime patterns, they're in there feeding, they're in there, nobody's bugging them. Come hunting season, everybody shows up, Doug Fluty and his whole family show up, and they spook them off. Those things will maybe go over into the roadless country or over into the really nasty terrain. And unfortunately, that nasty stuff, it's hard to hunt, and that kind of weeds out a lot of people. But if you're willing to put forth the effort and hike into some of these hellholes, or maybe it pushes them up into some roadless stuff to where the four-wheeler guys, the ATV guys, they're just not willing to go. Maybe they just can't because they have some physical limitations and they got to hunt closer to the road. If you're physically able, try to hunt some of that stuff without the roads or the stuff that ATVs, dirt bikes, four-wheelers are not allowed into. We're all in this together, and I kind of hope maybe some of our brothers in the elk woods will maybe tone down their four-wheeler riding, their side-by-side riding a little bit, at least during hunting hours. I can understand driving in an hour before dark, parking it for the day and hunting, and then get back at dark and hike and then riding out. But man, if you're just riding that thing throughout all that stuff during the day, man, that just sucks for everybody, especially during bow season. So, but anyway, look for those really hard to reach places. If you're going to hunt a place that's okay, well, it's roadless anyway. I want to go have the real backcountry experience. So I'm going to start looking for places that maybe there's a few roads around, but I want a drainage. I want a drainage that's long. 6, 8, 10 miles long with no roads that go down inside of it. I want to make sure there's some feed in there. Maybe there's an old burn. Maybe there's some on the some of the slopes. There's some grassy glades or some brush fields. On the other slope, there's big, heavy, dark timber. So they're going to have security cover. They're going to have feed. They're going to have water. Those are going to be the kind of things. And if you look at a map of Wyoming or Idaho or Montana and the high country and the roadless stuff, that will definitely look like a pretty big canvas. It's kind of hard to narrow it down. So then let's say there's no roads at all. Like let's say you get to a road, there's a trailhead that takes off, and for 20 square miles there's no roads. Then you want to look at your trail system. Where is everyone hiking in from? Are they hiking, a lot of guys, me included, you're going to want to access the further country by hiking on that trail because it's easy walking. So which way is everybody going? So then you're looking at your trail system and be like, okay, can I get off trail and then look at the terrain features, north facing slopes, got some good shade for those hot September days. You got some feed close by. It may take hiking up over one ridge with the trail that you're in over into the complete nether drainage where there's no horse trails. So then you're just bushwhacking at that point. That's very difficult, and that's going to separate a lot of the hunters. So I would definitely look for those kind of places. But that's a really great question. So good luck this fall. All right, let's check out the next question.
Hey, Dirk. Man, it's so great to have a podcast. My name is Phil McCracken, by the way. Listen, I'm calling because I have a question about the size of bugle tubes. I have a bugle tube that I've been using for years now, and my wife actually was telling me that I need a bigger tube, and I think that it's just fine. That the one I have is just perfect. My neighbor, he's got a huge bugler, and my wife is always saying that I need one as big as him, but. I don't know. I just figured since you had a podcast and you're, the bugler, maybe you would know. Like, is it really the size of my tube, or is it more about how I use it? Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the question, Phil. Man, Mrs. McCracken is she's quite a critic. Sounds like a little bit of tube envy going on there. So honestly, guys, there's a couple different camps on bugle tubes. There's the guys that like the radiator hose or type bugles, vacuum cleaner hose type bugles. You know the guy, Doug Fluty and friends. Yeah, and they'll tell you, man, you don't need no big old danged old tube to call in elk. This nice little compact, easy, flexible hose, this thing will call in elk all day, every day. And I won't disagree to some extent. Back in the day, I called in a lot of bulls with those smaller type tubes, the flexible ones. But since we started using the big tubes, they're kind of big, they're kind of hunky, they're kind of clunky, they're a little more difficult to carry, but elk quarters on your back are kind of difficult to carry too, I'm just going to tell you. The separation a lot of times in public land hunting is how good you sound. How authentic do you sound? And there's only so much you can do with those little flexible tubes. And I think the bigger tubes, if you're a pretty good caller with one of those little flexible guys, if you take a bigger tube, you can take a mediocre caller with a flexible tube, put them on one of the big, oversized bat type bugle tubes. It's like night and day. It's like you immediately got better. Your sound quality sounds better. Your tones sound better. A lot of times, like the tubes we use at Phelps, we've engineered the back pressure on those things. So back pressure is all about the amount of air you put into the tube that doesn't all escape. So if it retains a lot of that air that you put in, it lets you articulate the notes better. And then with that big bell on the end, it sounds real, man. You get those big deep guttural type sounds, just like an elk. And if you got Doug Fluties everywhere, don't be a Fluty, man. Get a big tube. Practice. I'll preach it. If you're not a great elk caller or you're a new elk caller, man, you got to put in the time. And I'm not saying you got to put in an hour a day. I'm talking about 5 minutes a day. Put one of those diaphragms and tube on your dresser every day when you get home from work. Get in your closet so you don't make the missus mad. Get in the closet. Go outside. Maybe you have a drive to work. 15 minutes drive on the way to work every morning. Blow on your calls on the way to work. Just a little bit of practice every day builds that muscle memory with your tongue, and it forms a co-op or a cooperation with your tongue, your internal diaphragm, your brain, your lips, everything. And all that stuff has to work together. But if you do it on a daily basis, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, every time you put that read in, it gets easier because your brain recognizes what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to make these calls. Your tongue says, yep, I remember what to do. Diaphragm says, yep, I know how to brace myself and push and get those notes. So anyway, kind of got off a tangent there, but I would definitely recommend the bigger tubes. Doug Fluty, he's probably not going to agree, but such is elk hunting. So anyway, great question. On to the next one.
Yeah, my name is George, and I got to see your first podcast, and I really appreciate it. My son was in Yellowstone recently with his family, and they did some videos and stuff, and I noticed that the bison and the elk were hanging around the people more than they have from years ago when my son's wife was there and noticed that a lot of the animals, the bears, especially the bears, would, from a great distance, spook and run away. I was wondering if the wolf situation has caused the deer and the elk and the bears, maybe not the bears, to adapt more by coming closer and staying closer to roads and to populations, people. Watching their videos, it occurred to me that maybe that's one of the ways that the animals are trying to have learned. Hey, if I run over here and I hang around the roads, the wolves don't bother me as much because they saw no wolves, and I know it's hard to see wolves. I just wondered if that was a possibility, or if you've experienced that, or any of the guys that you hunt with. The other question I had was a theoretical one. What kind of an increase might we see, just theoretically, in elk and deer if the BLM, the federal lands, the DNR, the state lands were given back over more and more to wildlife and the cattle, the leasing of the land to cattle?
Oh, I'm sorry, George. Looks like it cut you off. We only have a 3-minute window for those questions, so I apologize. I didn't know that when we first started this, but I think I kind of got the gist of that last question. But first off, wolves. Yes, wolves have made deer and elk act differently. I've seen it myself right here in Idaho, north central Idaho, where I used to live. That's Wolf Central. That was the epicenter in Idaho when the first wolf introductions happened in the Clearwater region. And over the years, what we noticed, during the 90s, we had one heck of a elk population in Idaho. Around town, close to town, you would see some every now and then. Not that much. There was a couple farmers that would have a few elk in their fields, of course, because they had all that delicious grain and stuff they like to eat so much. But as the years went by with more wolves present, we started seeing less wolves in the backcountry. We started seeing more elk in the front country, to the point where the backcountry, a lot of the north central Idaho and north Idaho, has become a wasteland. I mean, I know some people are going to argue with this with me. There's some people say, well, that's because the habitat. I understand the habitat is not what it was back after the Great Burn. If you look at Idaho's histories, back in 1910, we had this huge burn that covered a massive millions of acres in North Idaho, which when it grew back, it made fantastic elk habitat. And a lot of that has matured. Some of the trees are starting to die, whatever. And some of those proponents will say that's why we don't have very many elk in the Idaho backcountry. But I'm here to tell you, at the rate we lost our elk, that's all hogwash. Yeah, good habitat, good feed. That's a good thing. But it didn't go from one year we had so many elk that they started starving to death, and we went from 20,000 elk to 2,000 elk with less than a decade. That's just not the case. That's not true. But as far as behavior, yes, the elk have moved closer to town. Where I just moved from my little cabin in the mountains, between my house and town, I lived about 10 miles out of town, and I would see during different parts of the year, I could see up to 100 elk in between my house and town. Now, back in the day, back when I was in high school, you would see some elk sometimes, but nothing on that grand scale. The further away from town you get, the fewer the elk you see. And even in the front country now, the wolves have kind of whittled down that population. Hunting season, that's finite. We only have so many days each year allotted for hunting, for us humans. Wolves hunt 24/7, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. So they're out there on the prowl, eating. They're just doing the wolf thing. I mean, they're just trying to survive too. I get that. But they've definitely changed the behavior of elk. I wouldn't doubt what you guys are seeing in Yellowstone. The predator is going to kind of keep their distance from mankind, because maybe those wolves have been around and been harassed by people or shot out by people outside the park. It's hard to say, or maybe they're just smart. I mean, you look at a Labrador. I've got labs, right? And they have one little tiny bad experience. Something happens to where maybe they get hurt. Grizz, when he was a pup, he tried to eat a Dorito chip real quick, and he bit down with it where the triangle part, the sharp part, was at the roof of his mouth. He bit down. I know this has nothing, doesn't seem like it has anything to do with wolves, but he bit down and it hurt. And he will, to this day, he's 10 years old. He will not eat Doritos. He will not touch them. And any kind of tortilla chips or chips the shape like a Dorito or smell like a Dorito, won't eat them. So I have to think that wolves they're very intelligent, and they learn very quickly and very easily to where they understand humans may not always mean them no harm. So I think the elk kind of learn that. They move closer to town. They stay close to highways. We've seen that with white-tailed does for years. They'll have their fawns right next to the highway, right next to, in these farmer fields in the tall grass before they cut the hay every year. Why? Because coyotes are less likely to come closer to the road because they're scared of man. And I think wolves are the same way. If you look up this guy, guys, look up this Dr. Valorous Geist. He's a biologist that has spent a lifetime studying elk and all ungulates. Ungulates? I'm not sure if I said that right. Anyway, he has got some theories. He has got some proof. He's lived it. He's studied wolves. He studied the effect that wolves have on ungulates, and it's amazing. And what we are just talking about of what we've seen, this transition of elk living further from town and moving closer to civilization. That's exactly what he saw. He lived on an island where there was a huge overabundance of black-tailed deer. They reintroduced wolves on this island, right? And he kind of gives a breakdown of what happened. And he said they ate the deer, they started eating everything else, and pretty soon the wolves were at the edge of town, and they were eating people's dogs and cats and stuff because they're on an island. They have nowhere else to go. They get overpopulated. They have to eat. And then it just is, I think he called it a spiraling cascade. So check that out. He's a big proponent for wolf management to help our ungulates survive a little better. So read up on him, Dr. Valorous Geist. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that he's put out there. But anyway, check that out. I think it's a really good opportunity to learn a little bit more about wolves and their effect on our deer and elk and moose and caribou and everything else. So thanks for that call. All right, we got time for one more call. Let's listen in.
Doug, Fluty. And you won't hear about big feet. You're going to see some big feet coming right for your rear. Listen, man. I was sitting to buy a hat, and my brother Dick, he said, "Hey, man, the bugler, Dirk Durham," he said, he's been saying some unkind things about you. So I listened, and I just want to clear the air, okay? And I'm going to try to keep it under 3 minutes, but I might have to call back. Yeah, I might have to call back twice. Dirk, okay, listen here. Okay, I don't smoke Marlboro Reds. I smoke Pall Mall Reds, okay, 100. So I get to check the wind a little bit longer, okay? And, I just don't appreciate you saying all these unkind things about me. I come into work, and they say, "Hey, Doug, how's your flute going? Why don't you learn how to bugle like Corey Jacobs and his son?" Listen, I don't know Corey Jacobs or his son, okay? And I bet you they don't eat as much as elk as I do, even though my roadkill that I'd be picking up off the highway, but that's not here or there, okay? I just, I was going to buy a hat. I was going to represent the Bugler brand, and I'm a little bit upset. So even my wife said, "Hey, why don't you just take that tripod with the bugle tube off your four-wheeler this year and actually get off and walk?" And she don't know it yet, but I think I'm going to file for divorce. So my brother Dick and I, if we see you out there, we'll shake your hand, but we don't appreciate you. So thanks for listening, Dirk, and I guess good luck out there, and maybe I'll see you.
Wow. Doug Fluty's pissed. That escalated quickly. Doug Fluty's not very happy, is he? Okay, I'm sorry, Doug. I'm pretty sure I've seen you with the old hardpack Marlboro Reds before, but okay, that's neither here nor there, as he said kind of earlier. Yeah, I believe it's Corey Jacobson, not Corey Jacobs' son. I think you got that all wrong, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you don't understand that. And then, yeah, you should probably listen to your wife. The best advice is the hardest to hear. And I think she's got some pretty sound advice there, Doug. Get off the four-wheeler, start hiking, put the cigarettes away. I know you're trying to use it as a wind checker and scent elimination, concealment. I don't know what do you call it, but I think... yeah, Doug, I think you're kind of in a bad place. And I'm not sure how your brother Dick is even hearing these podcasts, but maybe they're broadcasting in the joint. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for calling. Maybe you'll call back again. I don't know. Anyway, we probably made Dick Fluty, and the whole family mad with this episode, or all of them combined. I don't know. Didn't really set out to do that, but anyway. Doug, it's all in good fun, all right? Don't be mad. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate everybody watching the Bugler Broadcast podcast. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the Elk Collective, that's this new venture I'm in with Dan Staten, Jason Phelps, John Gabriel. If you've never tasted success elk hunting, maybe you're a seasoned vet and you're looking to put a few more arrows in the old knowledge quiver. Check it out. It's a subscription-based platform. Guys, we're offering a discount code. It's ELK20. Check this out. All the orders that I'm shipping out with from the Bugler brand, we're sending these out, the ones from PhelpsGameCalls.com too. Use the checkout code ELK20 and you're going to save $20 at checkout for the Elk Collective. So anyway, check it out. Maybe you're not quite ready to buy yet. If you go to the blog section, then there's some little teaser videos on exactly what we're offering at the Elk Collective. Kind of breaks down a lot of the little teasers of what you can expect to see inside. So anyway, check it out. Appreciate you guys watching, listening. If you guys are listening on podcast platforms only, check out the YouTube version. Some of the other ones, like the Jason Phelps one, and some of the other ones, we've got some really good funny little things you'd like to see. Maybe you'd like to see the intro. It's a little bit silly and maybe paint in your mind's eye a little better of what the podcast's all about. But anyway, thanks again for watching, guys, and keep on bugling. Thanks.
Get your bugler swag at thebuglerbrand.com.